I'm Charlie Bright of Gold Derby, and today I'm speaking with Ramy Youssef, the creator, star, writer, director, executive producer, caterer, maybe, I don't know, of the Hulu series, of the Hulu original series Ramy, which wrapped its third season is currently on Hulu. First question I wanted to ask you is there? Before we started recording, I was saying to you how the show straddles the line between comedy and drama and walks that line very, very, it walks that very fine line. Is there an aspect of writing material that straddles that line between comedy and drama that you really enjoy getting to dive into with this show?
I love going near the button that you're not supposed to touch. It's probably my favorite thing to do in comedy, is to just kind of get near that thing you're not supposed to, and not to do it out of sensationalism, not to do it out of, wanting to bother anyone. It's more, I think that's where making something can provide something for an audience. I almost feel that if someone's going to give me their time, I want to be able to cover something that could crack open a conversation at the dinner table that maybe wouldn't have been opened up without some sort of healthy debate around what we did. And so I think for me, the journey of making the show has been really playing with tone and finding what we found in the third season, where I feel like the third season we really struck a great balance between our character development and it being something that just really makes me laugh out loud. And so it kind of was like, I was like, oh, cool, we're really getting into like making this in a certain way. And at the same time too, we were making Mo. And so even on that show, we were very aware of like what we were going for tonally there, where we were like, okay, like we want to lean into what he does so well in his stand-up that feels kind of, bigger, and he does these great, not just voices, but he speaks so many languages. And so how does that influence the tone there? And so I think for me, it's been really fun between both shows getting to really just hone in on tone. It's been a really exciting evolution to play with.
The way you describe that reminded me of something I heard George Carlin once say about his style of comedy, how he likes to bring people up to that line and then slowly bring them over it, even though it might be uncomfortable.
Well, I grew up, listening to Carlin records way before I was supposed to. So it's funny that you say that. That was the thing. My uncle was like, all the adults were gone. He's like, get in the room. Like, come here, let me show you something. And he put on, Carlin. And I remember just being like, wow, what this guy is covering and talking about, so funny, but also fearlessly and all of that. I'm very attracted to that for sure.
uh, you know, uh, it's interesting where the season ends. I love this at the ending of the third season with Ramy on on the beach, praying and also like trying to reconcile everything that's going on with his life in terms of like of his addictions and his what's the word I'm looking for, his business and everything. And I'm curious as to, do you think Ramy can, as in your character Ramy, because you're two very different things, do you think Ramy can overcome his own selfishness and find a fulfilling life?
I think so. I think part of what we have been really tracking with the show is a bit of an ego death, and as the seasons have progressed, it's gone from seeing Ramy as a character embedded in optimism to then seeing him as someone really head on in conflict with addiction, and then I think in the third season we see him truly kind of for the first time as a character let go of that verb of believing in a way, and that verb of striving, and then he puts it all back together. So he kind of goes through all these shades, and I think that moment that we leave him on is probably the most genuine moment that he's experienced in the series, because it's like he's really, for me it was like he's not performing faith, he's having a true spiritual moment.
you know um I it's interesting, you know, that whole thing, that whole thing sort of stems from going to visit the grave of his dog, and it was just I, I was just wondering, you know, how sad was it, you know, to you know have to say goodbye to a character like Boomer, who was so wonderful.
You know, it was really tough as someone who is a dog owner in real life, and you know, I think, and I'm also like very iffy on like animals dying and things. It's always like very, you know, it's a very tough thing. I think again, like as your cat comes, you know, I think again, it's kind of like the thing we always try to do is really put Ramy under that pressure cooker, you know, and I think like for me, yeah, as I was kind of analyzing, man, what are the things that would really make me move if I was in the place that this, you know, character was? And so, you know, and the dog was also like a symbol of his link to Sheikh Ali, you know, Mahershala Ali's character. And so, yeah, it kind of hit a lot of the symbolism. There's also this moment with the dog, you know, where the character that Sarita Chowdhury plays, and she really just brought this great shade into our third season, of this, you know, this character of a sex worker, and you know, there's this moment that she is trying to give water to the dog, and you know, it's actually based on this story in our tradition of you know, someone's asking, you know, how, you know, someone's like, oh, the, you know, who can be forgiven, you know, or who, you know, and they tell this this story of a prostitute who puts water in a shoe for a dog, and they say, you know, oh yeah, like whatever anyone might think that anyone went through on earth, it's like, oh, that person's going to heaven. And so it was always this story that we really loved of like, if you just show kindness towards an animal, you know, you're of the best people in a way. And so leaning into that, that in, you know, that symbolism in the story was something that we really, you know, enjoyed doing too.
You know, the other character that I always find so interesting, especially because he started as such a, I feel like not his character was a punchline, but he was just a source of punchlines. But then became so much more well-rounded. I think you know where I'm going with it. Is Uncle Naseem, and we really see him in this, especially the latter half of the season. It's amazing the way that you depict what the closet can do to people. And what I'm curious about is when writing Uncle Naseem's storyline, especially for this third season, did you talk with gay Muslims about their experiences being in the closet, reconciling their faith with their identity?
We did, and you know, actually, who plays opposite him? You know, we have this great actor Azam Mahmood, who is also in our writers' room, who plays Naseem's sugar baby in the third season. You know, a lot of what was reflected in the storyline was Azam's personal experiences as well, as somebody who, you know, identifies that way in the Muslim community, and also his experiences as being someone who's younger and owning it in a certain way, and dealing with, you know, men who are older and in a totally different place and in a totally different generation, and kind of, you know, what it did to them. And so I think obviously through a lot of his experiences and also some other people that we talked to, that became really I think why the storyline feels really rich and feels like beyond a punchline, like you said. You know, yeah, really, you know, it's based on a lot of real experiences that we know people have had.
Could you tell us a bit? One of my favorite things I love about the show is it's very brief, but I love the title card and that opening title, the way it looks and the music with your name and the Arabic writing in there. Could you tell us what inspired the opening credits for the show, along with the music that plays during it?
Yeah, so the music that plays in it was composed by this composer named Hani Shnuda, who was one of, you know, he was one of really the forefathers of, ever since, you know, the Egyptian record labels started popping off, which really started, I believe, around the 60s when music was no longer nationalized. and the label scene popped up. Hani Shnuda was one of the producers who really produced for the top artists in all of Egypt, and he's still around today. But one of his pet projects was this group called the Masriyin, which means the Egyptians, and we use a lot of their music, including that song in the show. And what's really cool is when that music first came out, people never gave Hani the love for it, his original project, in the way that they liked the stuff that he produced for other artists. And so, this album has kind of been this like hidden gem. The song we used to be used as the Egyptian soccer anthem for a bit, but for the most part, it was really kind of, no one really gave it too much love. And then, with our show coming out and our collaboration with Habibi Funk, the record label, Hani's whole presence around the song like exploded, and he actually went on Egyptian national TV. And the song's called Longa 79, but he went on TV after we won the Golden Globes, and he said he was renaming the song to call it just the Ramy song. It's just called Ramy. So that's how much he like loved the show. And I think what we were looking for in the opening sequence was this feeling of the tradition, but also the newer generation and the push. And I think our musical direction was always what would play in Cairo and what would play in an NYU dorm room. Like, how do you join those two things? Because they felt very much where Ramy was at. And so that title sequence was born out of, seeing the English of Ramy and the Arabic of Ramy dancing with each other and, landing on our title. So yeah, I kind of had the idea before I knew what it would look like. And then, we really just were able to get there through a great we had a great team kind of putting together our title sequence. So yeah.
You brought up earlier the show Mo that you co-created with Mo Amer, and I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about the history of your relationship with Mo and how you two came to co-create this Netflix show.
Yeah, so Mo and I, I got so many of my early stand-up time opening for Mo on the road, and we had always kind of daydreamed about a show around the fact that he was undocumented. And I think that was something that I was really fascinated by. And so I think, pretty much 2 months after Ramy came out, we pitched Mo and got into a commitment with Netflix. And the idea really was about, there's all these people who live under the table and they're forced further under the table because they don't get a seat at the table. And I really thought that the tone in which Mo performed his stand-up was obviously so different than mine on stage. And so I felt the way that, I think the Hulu show is a reflection of my own stand-up voice. I felt like, we could do something with Mo that could be a reflection of his stand-up voice. And so we wrote, the pilot, and then we got a great room together, and, it was, I would say it was definitely like a big creative challenge for me doing both at once. There was actually one day where like I had sent off like a Ramy draft, and then we were doing some rewrites on a Mo draft but at the same time I was in Hungary, and I was working on the film Poor Things with Yorgos, and it was like these three things were all happening in the same day. And at some point I was just like, I don't know, I looked over at one of my writing partners, Adil Kamal, who worked on Ramy and on Mo, and I was just like, bro, what are we doing right now? There's a lot going on. I was like, come to Hungary, there's a lot going on, but being here now, I feel so proud of kind of being able to get these projects going, and other ones too, because between both writers' rooms, we've been able to really hire a lot of first-time writers who've never been in rooms and kind of grow something new.
You just brought up the upcoming film Poor Things, the new Yorgos Lanthimos movie that you and also your executive producer Gerard Carmichael are both going to be in. And I was wondering, what was it like to work on that movie, and specifically like to work on a Yorgos Lanthimos movie?
It was gorgeous. I mean, he's amazing. Oddly, it's funny. I think there's just the Mediterranean thing of just him being Greek and Egyptians, and there's just something about the way that there's an inherent humor and a sarcasm and a riffing, and I think it was one of those things where right when I met him, I just felt, oh, this connection, like, oh, this is really cool. And, it's my first movie. And so to be kind of brought in to be brought in to get to do something so meaningful was really yeah, like a gift, a real gift, especially because I always joke like that we're just on that kind of like first generation immigrant, like let's just make our own stuff, like we're working, we're just like not sleeping, we're trying to just make it happen. And then you get handed this gift of doing a Yorgos film with Willem Dafoe and Emma Stone and Mark Ruffalo, and it's just kind of surreal. It was really surreal. And then to get to do it with friends like Christopher Abbott and Gerard, that was also just an added bonus. I didn't even have scenes with them, but to just kind of intersect in that was just so special.
I think I read somewhere you were talking about how if there is a fourth season of Ramy, that you want Yorgos Lanthimos to be in it as an actor, and I'm curious as to why. Like what made you what makes that thought go off in your head?
I think Yorgos is like, I mean, I think he's an amazing actor. He acted before in one of his films. He was in Alps. I think he just has such a great look. I think his timing is really good. And I think that he also teased me enough while he was directing me that I would love to kind of try and, do the opposite and kind of be on the other end of it and try and maybe make him feel a little bit insecure, which I don't think is possible. I think the man is like too confident, but it would be very fun to try. But honestly, I think he's so cool. And I kind of felt immediately when I was there, I was like, oh dude, it'd be really fun to cast you. And so, he didn't say no, but he certainly didn't say yes.
Well, I mean, we got on Barry this season. We got very surprised cameo from Guillermo del Toro out of nowhere. So I mean, this would be right in line with that.
I think it could and should be done.
Well, Ramy, thank you so much again for joining us. We wish you all the best over this upcoming Emmy season and with the upcoming Poor Things. And to all of our viewers, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and keep coming to goldderby.com in advance of Emmy nominations coming out on July 12th. Thanks so much, Ramy.
Always good to see you, man. Thank you so much, Charlie.